Hi there, I'm Erin Jorick, and for today's video, I'm going to talk specifically about triangle pose and what the hips are doing in triangle pose. A lot of students tell me they just don't love triangle pose, they feel like they don't understand triangle pose, and you're not alone. I think there's a lot of different ways of approaching triangle pose, but I think that there's one way or maybe a couple of ways that will suit your body best. But it might take some experimentation and it might take a little bit of tinkering with the alignment to find something that works best for you. So just know that what I have to offer may not be exactly what suits your body. What another teacher has to offer might work best, or it may not work best. I think as students, we really need to take a little bit on ourselves to, of course, take the teacher's suggestions, but sometimes we have to kind of listen to our bodies and take into consideration what works best for us. So, a couple tips on triangle pose. I like to use a block in triangle pose, not mandatory of course, but your block has 3 different heights that you can use. I like placing the block behind the front foot. You could play with placing the block in front of your foot. Again, you have to play a little bit with it. And then with your bottom hand on something, press through the base of your front big toe, stretch the standing leg, and then or the front leg, I should say. And then when it comes to the pelvis, play with how it feels when you turn your top hip away from the floor. In most bodies, that's not ideal. Right away, I feel a pinching in my low back. There seems to be some resistance in my front hip. And ultimately, what's happening is the front thigh bone is running into the hip socket. So if you're feeling some pressure when you pull the top hip away, do the opposite. Turn your top hip a little bit toward the floor until all that pinchy tightness sensation goes away. Right? So top hip turns down a little bit toward the floor. And then as the top hip angles a little bit down, pull your bottom sitting bone, so in my case it's my left sitting bone, toward your back heel. And the moment you start to pull your sitting bone back, your bottom ribs will lengthen out a little bit. You might feel a deeper stretch in the hamstring. Of course, you don't want to go so far that it feels uncomfortable or pinchy, but you got a healthy stretch. Then as you pull that bottom sitting bone back, again, bottom ribs lengthen out, and then rather than turning your pelvis away from the floor, let your chest open up, top arm toward the ceiling. And in triangle pose, you're actually trying to create a triangle between your bottom ribs, the bottom leg, and your bottom arm. So front leg, ribs, bottom arm, all creating a triangle. Right? So again, play with it. The pelvis, I think for a lot of students, it's kind of that deciding factor on kind of is the posture comfortable, is it working in your body? Just because there's a lot of stress points. The thigh bones are, into the hip socket. The pelvis is rotating either away from the floor or down the floor, depending on how your body feels. But at the end of the day, it's your practice, and ideally it's going to be a lifelong practice. So take the time to experiment, see what works best for your body. Thanks for checking it out.